Learners, so we will continue with the next unit, which is unit 12 on community participation in development of smart villages. So we have looked at what are villages, what is rural development, what are smart villages, why we need smart villages, and we have also looked at how infrastructure plays a very important role in development of smart villages. Next, we will start with how community participation is important in development of smart villages. And when I am talking of community participation, I also would be talking about the decentralized approach of planning and service provision in rural areas. And when we talk of decentralized approach, we are basically talking of a bottom up approach to plan making, infrastructure provision, which are very important for a smart village development. Now, community participation has been identified as effective driver of rural development in emerging economies. People's participation is a strategy for achieving people-centered development. Different terms are used to describe participation. These include community participation, popular participation, grassroots participation, people's participation, local participation, and citizen participation. The challenge since India's independence has been to develop a participatory structure which will best serve the goals of enhancing the capacity of local communities to bring about a form of development which is acceptable to them. So, need based people centric development and development which is acceptable to them and not something which is thrust upon them. So, when we are talking of smart villages, we should also think of a smart village which the people desire, how the people want their smart villages to develop. So, it should be a people centered and acceptable development. Now, Mahatma Gandhi had been stressing upon the importance of self-sufficiency or Swaraj of villages since a long time, through which they can function, these villages can function as democratic units of administration and lead to their need based development. So, in this direction several steps were taken after independence for bringing about a participatory planning process through a decentralized setup for need based development. A decentralized system of planning and administration based on people's participation can serve as a tool for development of efficient smart villages, and this is what we would be focusing upon in this lecture. So, a decentralized system of planning and administration or service provision based on people's participation. So, when you are planning or you are providing certain infrastructure, the people's participation should be there, and this can serve as a tool for development of efficient smart villages. Panchayati Raj system is something which has developed over a period of time in India and has been an integral part of culture and civilization of India. So, there have been panchayats in the villages for times immemorial. Since we can think of villages, we can think of panchayats existing in our villages. So, the panchayats or the Panchayati Raj system in a village, which has been a part of our culture, they actually were, it was actually based on involvement of citizens and getting input from citizens as to how the development of the village can be carried ahead. So, the Panchayati Raj system of India provides a unique local self governance in rural areas. So, it already existed, but it existed in a very informal sense. There was no statutory backing given to the Panchayati Raj system. Now, the statutory backing or the statutory support to the Panchayati Raj system came with the 73rd and the 74th amendments of the Constitution of India, and it gave panchayats constitutional status to function as an institution of self government at local level in rural areas, and the 74th amendment was there for the urban area. So, we will be focusing more on the 73rd CAA. To prepare plans for economic development and social justice and implement schemes of central and state government. Further, this amendment provided 3 tiers of panchayats, which is Gram Panchayat at the village level, intermediate Panchayat at the block level, and the district Panchayat or the Zilla Panchayat at the district level for rural areas. So, the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act empowers all the 3 tiers of panchayat by enabling the state government to devolve powers, funds and authority to them. This will also include the power to impose taxes, provision of funds to the panchayats. The 11th schedule of the Constitution of India, it contains 29 subjects and it details out what are the functions that need to be carried out at the bottom level or the gram panchayat level. So, there are these 29 subjects which either the gram panchayat, intermediate panchayat or the Zilla panchayat can perform, and it is to be ensured that these subjects, when they are being provided to the people, there is enough public participation or involvement of people in voicing their concerns and providing these facilities as per their needs and demand. So, the 73rd CAA sought to give space to the weaker section and women in participation in the affairs of their own problems and development. It also aimed at decentralizing the power and removing gender imbalance in government institutions. When we talk of decentralized planning, because how we can incorporate public or community participation, we can incorporate community participation through a decentralized planning system which looks at how these rural areas, how the villages can be planned and how infrastructure and various other services and facilities can be provided to them. So, decentralized planning found expression for the first time in the first 5-year plan, when it was suggested that the planning process be undertaken at the state and the district levels too. Under these arrangements, a district development council was constituted in each district to prepare plans based in varying degree upon a village level participative process. So, participative process was there since the very beginning. The first Administrative Reform Commission stressed the need for meaningful planning at the district level, especially focusing on local variations in development patterns. The Planning Commission issued its first guidelines for district planning in 1969 that led to several states formulating district plans. So, first guidelines for district planning was initiated way back by the Planning Commission in 1969, but the act was not there. So, the statutory backing was still lacking. However, barring a few excellent examples, these initiatives in district planning tapered away as these local planning exercises were not linked to annual planning process in most states, and there was no statutory backing as well. The formulation of centrally sponsored schemes, which are schemes that the central government actually have initiated, such as the Swachh Bharat Mission or the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana or Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana and so on and so forth, even the MG Narega or Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. So, all these schemes are implemented mainly through line departments, and this kind of over a period of time has led to virtual collapse of the district planning process. Why? Unless and until there are these centrally sponsored schemes, the top down approach cannot be given up. So, how to replace this top down approach even in implementation of the centrally sponsored scheme? That was the idea when this entire decentralized planning approach was initiated. Though there were several efforts to stem the tide, there were these committees which were formed, they were largely unsuccessful to start with. The weak nature of local self-government institutions and the growth and multiplication of sectoral departments and parastatal bodies, these all favored vertical planning and obscured information on the availability of resources for a decentralized planning process in districts. These were some of the chronology of attempts for decentralization, where I would like to mention two efforts. One was Balwant Rai Mehta Committee in 1957, which talked of village, block, district panchayat institutions, and it was here that the seed of a 3-tier grassroots level planning was initiated. So, it was his brain that initiated this 3-tier grassroots level planning. Then, if we look at district planning, which has of course, as I have said, after the 73rd and the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act, the district planning process has been given statutory power and it has been initiated in a lot of states. Now, the focus of district planning has been as follows: use of ICT, participative planning. So, participative planning comes as a very important component of district planning. Vertical to horizontal planning process, again not a top down approach, but a bottom up approach. Local decision making, again bottom up approach. Visioning or coming up with a vision for the village, the block and the district through stakeholder participation and identification of the lead sector. Again, the people's involvement is very important. When you are visioning, you are making a vision for your village or for your district. And this the focus of district planning has been on preparation of these kind of plans. It can be a 15-year perspective plan, 5-year draft development plan or annual plans. Now, as part of a district planning approach, a DPC or a district planning committee needs to be formed, which will facilitate the planning process at the grassroots level. So, if we look at the functions of the district planning committee, it would include the following: providing overall leadership to the district planning process, leading the district visioning exercise, setting district priorities on the basis of consensus among local governments, line departments, civil society, academia and other stakeholders in development. So, all the stakeholders, including the local people or the civil society, everybody has to be brought together for setting of district priorities. Setting of district priority means that what kind of infrastructure, what kind of facilities, what kind of services people want, they need, and that needs to be identified, or those priorities need to be identified based on a consensus and a stakeholder approach for discussion. During the process of consolidation, review plans of local governments and development departments, particularly to ensure that these address the district vision as a whole and are free of overlapping and duplication. So, process of consolidation, they have to carry out consolidation of plan, because there would be plans made at 3 levels also. Plans of each of the villages, which would be consolidated at the block level, then the block plans would be consolidated at the district level to get a district plan. Perform the central role of preparation of potential linked credit plan for the district. Now, potential linked credit plan is something that the NABARD or the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development has been preparing, but in that also the DPC or the district planning committee would help by identifying the potential sectors in a district which would come out from the planning process at the grassroots level. Then oversee the participative planning process of the district development plan to ensure that timeliness are followed. And participative planning process has to be overseen by the district planning committee in a very efficient manner. Now, the process of district planning for a 5-year perspective plan, it comprises of the following broad steps. Now, let us look at what are the steps which are to be followed for this kind of a district planning process. Firstly, preparation of a district stock taking report. So, you need to first analyze what is the position of the district and its villages as far as development is concerned. Is it developing well? Is it lagging? Is it underdeveloped? Is it very, very less developed? What is the status of the district and its villages? So, that could come out only if there is preparation of a district stock taking report, which is presented to the DPC. This becomes the basis of the district vision building exercise. So, based on what are the issues, what are the problems, what are the challenges, what are the potentials in the district, the district stock taking report actually leads to preparation of a district vision building exercise. Based on the problems and prospects, what are the vision that you have for the district and its villages? A district vision building exercise, which is guided by national and state goals based on current trends in the stock taking report, and a strength, weakness, opportunities and threat analysis of the district and its villages. Communication of the district vision to each planning unit, and planning unit, by planning unit we mean village or an urban local body in the district. So, the district vision is to be communicated to each planning unit, which is the village or the urban local body, to enable the setting of priorities and allocation of fund at their level. Simultaneously, communicating the government funding envelope that each planning unit is likely to obtain, so that this can guide the envisioning process. So, each planning unit or the village and the urban local bodies have to be told that this is the broad vision and these are the sources of fund that would be available to you. What are your priorities? What would the villages want to set their priorities as? So, that would come out from the planning unit, from the village level, that what are their priorities? Do they want road, or they want water, or they want irrigation facilities, or they want a school and a health center? What are their priorities? For which, now priority setting is one thing, but for each priority you would require a certain fund, and that fund can only come one, I mean that particular priority can only be implemented, or that infrastructure facility can only be brought on ground once you have enough funds to support it. So, funding envelope that way becomes very important. Following the visioning exercise to generate planning unit wise priorities, the broad investments through community participation within the framework of the vision. So, a community participation exercise also goes on simultaneously with all these stages of district planning process, to identify what can be met through available funds at each planning unit and what cannot, so that other funding avenues can be explored, and then bringing together the plans of the smaller planning units to a higher level to explore and firm up linkages. So why this bringing together or consolidation of plan is required? Because there might be a cluster of villages or a number of villages which are facing the same kind of problem. Maybe they are facing the issue of contaminated groundwater. So, because that entire cluster is facing that problem of contaminated groundwater, the government can come up with some intervention of getting a water infrastructure which can supply to this entire cluster, and the groundwater can be, they can stop using the groundwater and shift to this other infrastructure that the government is providing. So, that would result in better economic feasibility, better financial feasibility, and of course, technical feasibility also. So, bringing together the plans of smaller planning units at the block and the district level at time helps a lot by clustering certain settlements together which are facing similar kinds of problems, so as to benefit the district and the villages by way of better technical, economic and financial feasibility. Simultaneously, integrating these plans into a decentralized district plan and its final approval by the district planning committee, and the establishment of monitoring system and social audit mechanism to ensure effective implementation of the district plan. Now, if we see all these stages, community participation has again and again been stressed upon. Now, we will look at some of the aspects of the district plan making process. We will touch upon certain aspects which are important. Firstly, resource mapping and determination of fund envelope. As I said, in many states, financial devolution does not match functional transfer to local governments. So, the 29 facilities that have been listed out in the 11th schedule, which are to be provided by the local governments, at times the local governments do not have funds to finance many of those facilities. So, for that it is required that financial devolution is carried out, and some of the taxes, some of the cess can be given to the local governments which they can collect, and the earnings that they get from those taxes or cess or other sources, they can use it for these kind of infrastructure services developments, right. And most of the mandates given to them, to the local governments, it becomes just symbolic, as they are totally unfunded at times. Complete and meaningful planning exercise cannot take place without each planning unit, which is again the village or the urban local body in the district, being given its budget envelope. In the absence of this critical element, every plan prepared by any local government will remain a wish list, with the allocation of funds to individual works continuing to remain centralized. Now, this problem of lack of funds can be dealt by breaking it into 5 separate issues. Firstly, indicating to each local government its budget with which it can meaningfully plan. Reforming the system of administrative and financial clearances to serve a multi-tiered governmental system. So, there are a lot of financial clearances, administrative clearances which can be reduced or reformed, so that the local governments can get those funds easily. Because at the end of the day, the funds are required to bring about certain developmental infrastructure or services. And these developmental infrastructure or services would be identified by the people themselves. It is as per the need of the people that you would require these services or infrastructure or facilities, and thus the financing of these facilities should be made as simple, as easier as possible. Then putting in place a fiscal responsibility framework for local government, so that the local government can also look for avenues of income generation, and the entire burden of financing these services may not fall just on the state and the central government. So, financial responsibility framework also needs to be created for the local governments, ensuring seamless flow of funds to the local governments and strengthening capacity of local governments in accounting practices. So, managing transition to coordinated decentralized district planning for moving towards participative district planning, better interface between community and service delivery system. So, all this would go a long way in developing smart villages. Now, briefly I would also like to define planning unit here. I have already told you all, but I would again reiterate. The term planning unit, simply stated, is a body that is entrusted a responsibility for planning. Ideally, the responsibility of and relationship between planning units should be clearly defined and should not overlap. In a logically organized system of local government, the panchayat and the municipalities are easily recognizable as distinct self-contained planning units. So, as far as possible, the villages and the municipalities or the municipal corporation, they should be made responsible for planning, because they are the closest to the people. They can go to the people as and when they require. They can get inputs from the people as to what the people want, what the people need. However, the position and scope of local governments vary across states, and in some the task of full and complete devolution of functions, powers and responsibilities to panchayats and municipalities is incomplete. So, the first step that the state governments need to take is that they should first see that there is full devolution of functions, powers, responsibilities to the local governments, and funds as well, sources of funds as well, so that they can decide upon what they want and what is best as per the need of the people. Here panchayats still function as agents of line departments if they are not given the functions and the powers and responsibilities. So, in certain states panchayats are relatively better empowered, have functioning under and have functioning under them separate and distinct department units over which they have considerable control. So, in most of the villages we see there are panchayats, and these panchayats have certain statutory standing committees also, which look at various facilities and infrastructure such as education committee, health committee, they have public works committee, they have water committee. So, all these committees are also there at the panchayat level, which are existing and they can contribute to plan making process for each of these sectors, which can then be integrated. Now, this is one of the most important aspects of district planning, which is participative rural urban planning, and the village panchayat it will the preparation of final draft village development plan is being done, the village panchayat will consolidate all the sector wise priority solutions after incorporating any changes approved by the Gram Sabha into the final village panchayat plan. Gram Sabha is very important at the village level because Gram Sabha consists of all the 18 plus members or residents of the village. So, when the draft village development plan is prepared, it is again taken back to the Gram Sabha. Of course, there are various number of Gram Sabhas which are held right from the beginning, since the inception of the plan, the preparation of the plan, the finalization of the plan. There are several Gram Sabhas which are held to get inputs from the people, but when the final draft village development plan is also prepared, then also they have to go back to this Gram Sabha and ask them whether there is any suggestion, any changes that they are giving. So, there is a very important role of community participation through the Gram Sabha meetings and the generation of micro plans at Gram Sabha or area Sabha level. The extent to which the planning process captures the true needs of the people depends upon how best the needs of the communities are captured at the village, habitation or ward level within the panchayat. These processes of micro planning mainly consists of participatory community mobilization at the village level, primarily through techniques of participatory rural appraisal or PRA. Such processes have been tried out successfully in several states and the lesson learned can be applied effectively to both urban and rural habitations. Some states have adopted a 5-day framework of village micro planning. We can see how this 5-day framework of village micro planning is carried out and how much of community participation is there. So, first day environment building and village overview, day 2 creation of village database, day 3 data analysis and identification of issues, day 4 visualizing solution and prioritizing strategies, and day 5 formulation of village action plan. And for each of these days and each of the activities, there is a very strong community participation that is happening in the village for micro village planning. So, approval of the first draft of the village plan, the intermediate panchayat envisioning and planning process also is carried out after that. So, same workflow as for village panchayat may be followed at the intermediate level, and the intermediate panchayat as a consolidator of micro plans at the cluster or block level. So, all the micro plans at the village level or the local body level is consolidated by the block panchayat or the intermediate panchayat, and then again it is consolidated at the district panchayat level. So, district panchayat planning would follow the same process as the intermediate panchayat, as it also has two roles to play, namely the panchayat in its own right and as a facilitator for intermediate panchayats and gram panchayats in the district level. So, these are some of the potential stakeholders in a participative district planning process. So, the local governments who lead the process and are central to it, then citizen groups, such as gram and area sabhas, ward committees, resident welfare association or organizations in the urban context, sectoral interest groups such as ex-servicemen, weavers cooperatives and so on, commercial entities, voluntary agencies such as NGOs, activist groups, experts from academics and various other fields, women and marginalized group of people including association of SC/STs, minorities who might get ignored in the planning process unless specifically brought in, line departments, large industries, undertakings, so on and so forth. So, these are all stakeholders which are brought in when there is a participative district planning process. And the district planning process also has given a lot of emphasis upon ensuring participation of women and the disadvantaged in the envisioning as well as planning process. So, seek women's views in surveys including through focus group discussions, identify women community leaders and include in all committees formed under various sectors, encourage elected women member networks to exert pressure and throw up leadership for plan with women's views embedded in them, organize capacity building program on women's empowerment as a cross-cutting theme, organize special capacity building for women belonging to traditionally muted and excluded groups and so on. Then ensuring full involvement and participation of disadvantaged groups such as SC/STs and others, primitive nomadic tribes, etc. So, this is very important part of participatory district planning process. And then as I said, there is consolidation of urban and rural plans at the block level and the district level. And lastly, the constitutional imperative of preparation of district plans cannot be achieved unless rural and urban local governments work together, and they can work together more efficiently through a participative process at the rural as well as urban local body level. The consolidation exercise should focus on the common functional responsibilities as given in 11th and 12th schedule. These are some of the functions, these are the functions as given in the 11th schedule, devolved to the Panchayati Raj institutions. So, drinking water, agriculture, minor irrigation, fisheries, social forestry, small scale industries, khadi village and cottage industries, rural housing, electricity, water, technical training, non-formal education, libraries, cultural activities, social welfare, women and child development, family welfare, public distribution system, maintaining community assets, so on and so forth. So, and the article 243ZD of the constitution makes it mandatory for state governments to constitute DPC or the district planning committee, which are mandated to prepare draft district development plan by consolidating the plans prepared by all the panchayats and municipalities. Thus, the Constitution of India has provided for meticulous structure for decentralized planning from village to district level in a participatory manner. Now, another thing which is happening in the village level, at the village level, is preparation of Gram Panchayat development plan. So, briefly I would be talking of Gram Panchayat development plan, and Gram Panchayats have been formulating this for their respective areas since 2015. There is also certain guidelines for preparation of Gram Panchayat development plan, which was circulated by Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Government of India in 2015, and it was updated in 2018 and later on also. On the recommendation of 14th Finance Commission, the central government provided enhanced grants to Gram Panchayat since financial year 2015-16 for providing basic services in their areas, and these grants were to be utilized in accordance with the approved GPDP or the Gram Panchayat development plan. So, based on the Gram Panchayat development plan, the priorities would be identified, and based on those priorities for certain basic services in their areas, the funds would be released by the central government. There are certain steps for preparation of GPDP. These are as follows: formulation of GPDP facilitation team for every GP for shared understanding and facilitation of the entire planning process, and activating them to take up and carry forward the entire process of Gram Panchayat development plan. Environment creation and community mobilization. So, again community mobilization becomes a very important part of GPDP preparation as well. Collection of primary secondary data, situation analysis, need assessment, gap identification and preparation of development status report. Development status report will give an idea as to what are the issues, gaps, problems in the villages, and what all is required to cover these problems and issues and gaps. Visioning exercise for goal setting, resource and identification and estimation of corresponding activities, for which a special Gram Sabha meeting can be organized. So, resource identification also becomes an important step. Where will you get all those funds from? Plan development, prioritization, projectization, approval of GPDP, implementation, monitoring and impact analysis. This is the plan cycle of GPDP, where we are looking at formation of Gram Panchayat, facilitation committee, and then initial Gram Sabha. As I said, Gram Sabha is meeting of all the members of the village who are above 18. Then environment creation, PRA, community mobilization. PRA is again we have talked about PRA also. in the district planning process also participatory rural appraisal is carried out, where I have shown that this kind of a micro planning based on participative rural appraisal for a 5-day is carried out as part of the district planning approach. And similarly in GPDP also they have mentioned about participatory rural appraisal through community mobilization, then data collection, situation analysis, visioning exercise, resource and activity identification, for which again a Gram Sabha meeting, special Gram Sabha meeting would be called, because the vision is to be accepted by the people of the villages. And then the resources and what are the activities or priorities that also need to be acceptable to the people as per their need, plan preparation and plan implementation and monitoring. Then preparation of draft GPDP after deliberation on development status report in the Gram Sabha, listing the priorities and taking the resource envelope into account, a draft GPDP is to be prepared. Draft plan may be prepared indicating the work identified in each of the focus area, fund allocation, timeline for completion of the work. While preparing development plans, special attention should be given for the upliftment of people belonging to the marginalized sections and the weaker sections. The draft plan should contain a certain prioritized activities to be undertaken in panchayat area, and the cost is also to be estimated. This draft plan is to be deliberated in detail in the development seminar. After incorporating the feedback and suggestions emanated from the development seminar, special meeting of the Gram Sabha is convened to discuss and finalize the GPDP. So there is, as I said, there are these guidelines for intermediate panchayat and district panchayat plans also as per Ministry of Panchayati Raj 2020, and they have also given certain guidelines for preparation of intermediate panchayat plan and district panchayat plan. So, and they have given priority to the following areas: planning focused on development needs of the people, work benefiting more than 2 gram panchayat should be clubbed together, social planning to be mandatory part of the plan, convergence, gender responsive plan should be promoted, localizing sustainable development goals is required, emphasis in planning on basic services like sanitation, water supply, etc. Development and maintenance of the infrastructure handed over to district and block panchayat, economic development, income enhancement and poverty reduction, e-enablement, so digital development also that means, and renewable energy. So all these, the focus area, the priority areas in GPDP are actually things which would contribute to smart village development, and they are leading towards smart development of villages. The process for preparation of block development plan is same as that of GPDP, and for district development plan is also same as that of Gram Panchayat development plan. Now this is again the constitutional provision. As I said, the constitution has given provision for establishment of DPC. I will not go into the details of it, but it should be constituted in every district for efficient planning and development outcomes. So there is a need that the draft development plan is prepared by DPC in systematic, participative and inclusive manner. Thank you.